welcome back. Now, they say life begins at 50 or is it 40? Either way, whether it's due to increased numbers of couples separating or maybe just not finding the right partner in life, the number of over 45s using techniques like online dating to find love is on the up.
Parship relationship advisor Paula Hall joins us this morning to talk about finding love later in life. And from your last visit here, when we were talking about how people should keep a relationship fresh and avoiding, 20 years.
Prioritising your relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
We may be talking about people who failed to do that or just lost touch with each other.
Learning the hard way, indeed.
And they're suddenly back on the dating scene and having a rashers because they haven't been dated in so long.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Is it different, though, if you're in your 50s?
It is different. I think it's different because in some ways you're certainly older and wiser. Hopefully, you do know more about it. You may actually have some anxieties and concerns and unfinished business from your first relationship. I mean, if it ended really badly or you were left very suddenly, then that may have had an impact on your self-esteem. And you certainly may be looking for something different in a relationship now from what you were 20 years ago or 25 years ago. And I think also that we tend to think of dating as being a bit of a young person's game, don't we? And to be 45 or whatever and have a boyfriend or a girlfriend just feels a bit weird.
So I think 45 is kind of still pretty young, to be honest.
Oh, I do, absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
We had a relationship counsellor on last year, and I remember this one point that she said was that when you're dating when you're older guys think older women are looser because they've been around the block, so that they'll be up for sex pretty much from the word go. Here's a glass of wine and I'll see you later type thing. Did you find that, or do you believe that?
Well, I think there might be some truth in that, but I have heard that exactly the opposite way round. I remember seeing a guy in his early 50s and he was back dating again after his wife had actually passed away. And he was really shocked that he'd been out with 3 or 4 women from a website and every single one of them had offered him sex on the first date. And he was saying, am I terribly old-fashioned, or do I need to move with the times? I'm not sure these are the kind of ladies that I'm looking for, he said with great concern. So it's interesting, whose expectations are they, in actual fact, that you should sleep with somebody that early on? And I do think it's important that you do what's right for you and you do what you feel comfortable with. And actually, if someone's expecting something different from you, then I think that's a pretty good sign that they're not right for you.
Okay, but you're also of a vintage, an older vintage, so you're more likely to say, well, actually, do you know what? No. Whereas 20, 25 years earlier, you might have said, well, I better follow through.
Yeah. Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think, yeah?
Whose experience are we talking about here?
Yeah. Go on, carry on.
That's the thing about these relationship segments. You find yourself talking about yourself and you're like, oh, I hope people at home don't think that I'm talking about myself. But anyway.
But yes, I think an awful lot of people who might be of over 45, 50 and dating again, A, may be vulnerable. So there's one bunch. And then there's the other bunch who they lived through a previous dating time. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to cut through all the bullshit.
Yeah, and I think there's also a percentage of that age group who actually may have been in a, how should we say, an unaffectionate marriage, a cold marriage, for many years. And actually it is important to them that they meet somebody who is like-minded. But I think the most important thing, I think that using that word vulnerable is really important, because a lot of older people do, men and women, because they're not quite sure what the rules are of the game. And particularly with internet dating, they're not quite sure how it works and what you're meant to do, and they can feel extremely exposed and aren't really sure what it is that's expected of them and what they're meant to do.
You mentioned, Sybil talking about a previous relationship counsellor we spoke about, who said that one woman, one guy
thought they were loose. Did you remember that?
I do remember that, and you saying that you spoke to a guy who experienced the opposite. We're talking about over 50s, and there's been a rise in STIs among over 50s singles.
Yeah, according to is it Brooke? I can't remember which agency it is, but they were saying that actually STIs have increased they've doubled in the last 10 years. And a lot of the reason for that is that the older generation they're not thinking about contraception necessarily. It's not needed. The last time they bought condoms was 25, 30 years ago. They don't think to actually take these precautions, shall we say. And then they're actually finding that they're catching something. And of course, you know, you only have to sleep with one person to get an STI. You don't have to be promiscuous. You just sleep with one person who slept with one person who slept with one person. So yes, that is an extra precaution that you need to take. Do you want to put off every viewer, though? I cannot go online dating or I'll catch something.
And then, of course, you have the, kind of the embarrassment of, you know, you want to do it with someone. Have you been through the menopause already? Do I need condoms? Do you know what I mean as well? And then, of course, the embarrassment of in your 50s going to buy condoms and probably pretending they're for your children.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's not necessarily an easy thing, to do. But of course, I mean, there are places where you can pick them up sort of free and easily. And of course, again, the internet's a great way of having anonymity for those kinds of things.
So as you've just said, people of 45 plus may not need contraception for, you know, to protect against pregnancy, but they do need to practice safe sex, and they're not.
Absolutely.
And then they're finding themselves in an embarrassing position where they don't even know if they can go to a clinic because they, as you've told us, in some cases, they don't think they're allowed.
Yeah, and we do tend to think of sex as being something that's just owned by the younger generation, and of course it's not. And I mean, I think if this is a situation, obviously practice safer sex, and it is something that affects all of us. But yeah, I mean, if you have got any concerns, then yeah, you need to get it checked out.
Well, in your opinion, best places for people 45 plus, 50 plus to go if they are looking for like-minded people?
I think the most important thing is to, if you're looking at online dating, then make sure you actually choose a site like Parship, which actually does tailor its services for that age group, someone that actually has a lot of maturer members on its books, and also one that's going to kind of sort out the wheat from the chaff for you. And a lot of people are anxious of the kind of people that may be reading their profile. The other thing that's quite unique about Parship is that you don't put your picture up. And a lot of people in that generation aren't sure if they really want to be chosen based on their looks. Not necessarily because they've got any anxieties about how they look, but actually they realise that beauty is definitely more than skin deep. And actually, because it's anonymous in that respect, it's completely up to the member to make the decision when they want to show their photograph to somebody, when they want to reveal information to somebody else. And it's based on actually first having established some level of compatibility with them. So I think it's something that's actually much more tailored to that market, similar to kind of the old-fashioned matching services, rather than hanging out round bars, which might suit some of the young ones of today.
When I think of people in 50s, 60s, 70s dating, I don't see them going on to an online dating site first. I would see them meeting somebody at a social club, at bridge club.
A tea dance.
No, well, not a tea dance, but maybe...
Come on, we're talking about those who came through the 60s. You know,
they've been through a lot already, maybe at a golf trip or something. I don't see like somebody going on to an online dating site in their 60s. Do you? I mean, I know my mum doesn't know how to use the internet for a start, and when she's not dating though. But do you, I mean, is there anywhere else? I mean, you would suggest?
Yeah, I think. I mean, for some people, you know, they are using the internet, and that's an easy access from home. But I mean, know your community. That's the most important thing. If you can try and connect up with other single people, find out what's available. I mean, obviously, any local clubs and activities, evening classes, things that are going on at your church, things like that. Just places where you're meeting people. And you know, often the people we end up in long-term relationships with are people that were introduced to us through a friend or through work. So the more you can kind of expand your social network, whether that's online or within your community, the easier it's going to be to meet like-minded people.
As always, Paula, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.